at the WTEA website and take a look at the resources that are there. It might take you a while to go through the resources, but there's a lot of value there. So that's what I got from my end.
Angie, what was the background on not putting any grades in?
The lawyer told our principal that there's a lot of legalities, but part of it was the fact that many of our students and families may be dealing with this virus, and you know what that looks like for them, and that's not a, you know, school is not a priority in getting grades done. She is going to be finding out more information as you know, administrative level, and then getting back to us. But we were told we cannot enter any grades right now, at least for Seymour. And I would assume that was for most of the CISAs, Colleen.
You know what is really interesting is we just had another meeting on that this morning, and I was meeting with principals and curriculum directors. And have you guys seen, there's a statewide document. If you haven't seen that, I'll go grab that and I'll put it in the notes for you. But so ASA, which is a principal group, just created a document, and districts can go in there and put what they're doing with grades. I think this week I'm starting to see people come up with where they're going to land with grading. I think that it's an easier discussion at elementary level, even a little bit easier at the middle school level, because you can do some things with pass fail. Some people are doing like, if they're doing standards-based grading, what I saw this morning, and so this morning I had elementary principals, and then I had a middle school, then a high school, and then the curriculum director. And what I'm seeing in the elementary level was that people that were doing standards-based grading are keeping it. If they were doing traditional letter grades, they're looking at doing kind of a hybrid of standards-based grading. And I really saw that also happening at the middle school level. High school is its own animal because the kids are worried about the grades that they're going to get for, you know, for college consideration. So I can grab that document and show you what's in that. But I would say that I'm starting to see where people are beginning to be prepared to take the position on grading. One of the things that I have seen happening around the state, and what I heard in my high school conversations today, is that people are starting to look at even giving kids a choice. Do you want to have pass fail, or do you want to have a traditional letter grade? When Mary Gerbic, who's an attorney that met with the superintendents a couple of times, talked about it, she was really clear on, you can give grades and you can give grades for kids doing different things. So let's say that a kid has the materials at home to construct a project for you. Some other kid has absolutely, you know, no access to anything. You couldn't penalize the child that, or the student who had no materials, if he said, I can draw it for you, you know, but I can't actually create it for you. So you could still give a grade for that. What Mary was cautioning people on is having them think about giving a grade, and then rather than an F, that you would give kids an incomplete. And I think Green Bay was even putting something on there like incomplete dash COVID-19 or something like that. And then they're figuring out what is the deadline that kids would have to get that work done, so that it's an issue of access to materials, if it's an issue of access to help, if it is, you know, a kid just living in complete chaos kind of thing, and they're not penalized for things that might be out of their control. But, you know, maybe if it's a junior, maybe get an incomplete, but you have until the end of September to then finish up whatever it is and get the credit. But I would say there's still some districts that haven't come down on one side or the other of what they're going to do with grading, but I think people are getting closer as they get their feet under them a little bit. I know for my own 2 students in their district, my own 2 children, I haven't seen anything come across the computer, the emails regarding what's happening with grading. So I would say in Seymour, that's probably a local choice to not do it until they see what's happening around them a little bit more. And to be honest, some of it might be waiting to see, are we going to get a decision that we're staying in this until the end of the year? Or would we be coming back to a traditional assessment? Does that change our thinking? So that's what I have on grading. I did put in the notes document, and I'll go and I'll reinsert this link into the notes in the chat, because I know if you join after it's been put in, you don't always you don't see what's there. So I'll go ahead and put that back in. And then you can add your name to the list if you've joined us by computer. And then you'll see I put a link in there for this new resource that one of my teammates sent my way. Other thoughts or any questions on the grading piece?
Well, all I know is that in Kaukauna, we've been grading for about 3 or 4 weeks. We just turned in our mid-quarter grades or mid-trimester grades last night. So we're into it full blast.
Okay.
And to be honest with you, without grades, I'm just curious to see how many other teachers are getting good input from their students, how many of their students are actually doing things and how many are not, if you don't have grades going on.
And I think, Dan, that's a really big concern. That came up in the high school principal meeting this morning, is that they're really worried that if they announce that it can be pass fail, that there'll be some kids or pass incomplete, that there'll be some kids that think that means they have a pass.
And I think that's exactly what will happen. Now, right now, I would say in my classes, I have about 80% of my kids that are turning stuff in on a regular basis and have good passing grades. And if you think about it, whether we were back in full session at our normal schools or what we're doing now, I don't see a great big difference. The kids that wouldn't have gotten work in when I was at school are the kids that are not getting work in now. But I, as a teacher, have never made so many phone calls, done so many emails to parents in the last 3 weeks, probably more than I have in the last 3 years. Doing a big push on getting the parents involved in this process. They have been pretty good, as much as they can, in helping, get kids to turn things in and become involved in their schoolwork.
Dan, I'm so glad you said that. I say frequently when I'm in these network meetings that I think I have the best seat in the house as this unfolds, because I get to see and hear really great things. And I hope that these are things that we carry forward to help us, because even as a parent, I feel like the communication that we've had is unlike ever. I mean, I've been doing this 29 years as an educator. My son is a senior, my other one is an 8th grader. And the communication, I would say, as long as I've been at this, a lot of times our communication is at families. And really, I see such a big turn in how we are trying to invest parents as partners in their child's education. So I think there's a lot of good things. As much time as it's taking, I hope there are some lessons that we can capture from this to be able to carry forward. And I really applaud you for doing the work. People ask me all the time, like, what are teachers doing right now? I'm like, oh my God, what are teachers not doing? They're with kids and families from, sun up to sundown, and then they're doing their planning after that. So I applaud you guys for the work that you're doing right now. That's one of the questions that I frequently ask the principals is, what are we doing? Because I have a real concern about equity and access during this time, and that the kids who were on the fringe of success might fall farther off. So now I'd ask your colleagues to jump in. What are some of the things that you are doing to capture those kids that might not be engaging with you right now? Anybody have found something that worked pretty well, or a strategy that your district is employing?
I guess I'll step in here at Wanakee first. Wanakee, we've gone with a pass-fail model. And so students 60% or higher is considered a pass. And again, I have about 3/4 of the students doing the work. The ones that have done well are still doing well. The ones that before we went to this at-home model, the ones that were struggling are still struggling. But what we've set up, because the issues in the beginning with like our websites and things crashing and these online conferencing software is not handling the load, we've kind of set up where the meetings are now optional, and our coursework is set up where students can kind of drop in, grab it, and go and complete it on their own at home, not during like a regular scheduled class time. And that seems to be working.
Anybody else want to weigh in?
Well, that's kind of what we're doing in Kakana. I mean, I have set up normal office hours from like 9 to 11:30 where kids can contact me, you know, almost immediately. I'm online all the time. And then I have other times of the day when they can email me and I'll contact them in a short period of time. But I put my assignments out every morning and the kids pick them up and then they do them, and I give them a due date, and they try to turn them in by the due date. To be honest with you, last night after doing my grades, I stayed up till about 10:30 and allowed students to get in to turn in things that we have until 10:30 last night so they could get them in. And they responded pretty well to that. So kind of similar to what he mentioned, you know, just putting the assignments out there. And of course, during the day, if the kids have issues or questions, being available to help them get through some of those issues and questions. Obviously, I think this whole opportunity has helped me become a better teacher as far as definitely being able to use more and different types of technology to get my message across to my kids. I'm an auto tech teacher, auto tech and outdoor power equipment, so it's a challenge, and my big concern is safety. You know, and the other thing is the kids don't have tools at home to perform these tasks that we want them to do. So it's kind of find that happy medium where you give them something that they can do safely and something they have tools to do and something that they have enough expertise to do based on what you can provide them with from a technology standpoint. So using EduPuzzle to using YouTube to using my own homemade videos, using any kind of resource you can to let them see how a certain thing should be done, and then, you know, in some cases allowing them to do it at home.
I think that's what was so impressive about this group last time, is just all the ways that you are finding to be able to keep the learning going when you don't have the lab and all of the tools and equipment that you would normally have to teach the class. What are the rest of you doing in terms of setting up that delivery? I know one of the things for my own two kids that I've really appreciated is some clarity that they've gained as the days have gone by, where they've sent parents and kids some notes that have said, okay, you know, this, to make this manageable as a teacher, this is what I need. I'm going to put out the videos in very explicit written directions in the morning. And then I have either an afternoon meeting with you or I have these office hours, but you have to watch the video and you have to do the reading before we come together. Otherwise, you know, if you have 125 kids, it's like answering the same question 80 times. In normal classrooms, you would say, okay, I'm getting the same question. Let me pause and back up here and provide a little clarity. So that you're not getting caught up in doing all of those individual emails, they're setting some of those parameters. I really appreciated that even as a parent. Okay, now we know how it operates. You know, you get up in the morning, you check these things, you have time to reflect on it, figure out where your questions are, and then you can see your teacher during these windows of time to get any additional clarification. Because I do think, you know, what we just heard and what we can do to teachers is the hard part about this is it's stretching into all hours of the days and night. So are there other strategies or tools that people have found in terms of getting information out to kids, getting work back from kids?
I've set up some specific group meetings. So you can kind of have 180 odd kids right now. So you can kind of anticipate the questions they're going to have with a particular assignment. So I'll set up an open Google group with a link for, say, this question or help with that question. And so I'll set up 2 a day, like half-hour time slots, and then kids can just bump in and bump out as they have questions during that time. Otherwise, like you say, you answer the same question 100 times to 100 kids.
Yeah, it becomes a little bit unmanageable. Some of you last time, we talked about being resourceful and finding ways to deliver your content. Is anybody struggling with a particular content or age level that you'd like to have some ideas off of your crew here?
Yeah, I'm with Plum City, and it's a pretty rural district, kind of located out in the boonies. So for a number of our students, access to online stuff is an issue. But I do have a specific class. My AutoCAD class, of course, we were right in the middle of curriculum work with that. And so my students in that class don't have access to, I taught specifically out of AutoCAD. And so they don't have access to download AutoCAD or anything. And I'm just wondering, does anyone have any suggestions or are in a similar situation where, a class like that where you have a specific software and students don't have access to it? It'd be nice if there was someone that was in the same exact boat as I am as far as AutoCAD, but maybe there's some suggestions that are similar that I can work off of.
Have you contacted the company? Well, first of all, do the kids have computers?
Well, they do, but I have a handful of them that have really slow internet bandwidth. So, as far as even just download, I know they can download AutoCAD for free through Autodesk, but even that process for them is, virtually impossible just because of the internet speed that they're dealing with.
Well, that kind of causes an issue. I was going to say otherwise, companies have been really great about giving students software. In my case, for 2 of my classes, giving me e-text access for my kids to download to their computers. But if it's an internet issue and with bandwidth, that's a tough one to get by.
Yeah.
For those individual students, that's really hard to work with any kind of an AutoCAD program if you don't have the software and stuff.
Depending what grade level you're working with, I'm going with middle school right now. We're doing a little drafting unit. And one thing I did was they do it on sheets kind of like this. We send mailings home from our district like once a week. I actually put that image on a digital background on a Google slide. I set it as the background. And then I could use Screencastify to kind of give a tutorial on it. And I could draw lines with Google Slides and dotted lines, solid lines, put dots in the corners. It's kind of rough, but they got the idea. And then they would just have to do it on the paper, using a straight edge. And then I sent the packet home with drawings that complemented those graph papers as well. It's not a perfect world, but it's better than nothing at all. Especially we have a rural community as well, and not everybody has internet access. So that was a way I kind of got around that. But again, it was for middle school. For a high school class, it might be a little bit tougher.
Oh my God, Chad, I haven't seen you in so long. Like, it's so good to see you.
A mini reunion for some of you across the state.
See, as far as I can add what I'm doing, I teach an architectural drafting class at the high school level. And we were about ready to jump into Revit, and when this COVID-19 struck, and had been having issues for months before that with downloading the software from Autodesk because the new licensing, a third party handles it. And besides that, our students have Chromebooks at home, and that will not run it. So what I'm using, and it seems to be working quite well, is SketchUp. And there's a lot of YouTube tutorials, and what I do is I have to go through and look at the tutorials, but there's some of them that are really good, and then I have the student follow along and create the object that's shown in the tutorial, and then they can either upload it or with SketchUp, they're allowed to share it, and I have them share it with me, and then I can go in and look at it. And so that's been working out pretty good for me.
Yeah, we that's kind of what I was looking at going at. I was you know, with this class, it's pretty advanced. I had them in a architectural class where we used AutoCAD to develop the houses and stuff. So they have a pretty in-depth knowledge of AutoCAD, and it just so happened that all my students that were in that architectural class then carried over to this semester in the it's called a basic CAD class, which they were already pretty advanced when we started that class. So I tweaked the curriculum and started going into some more advanced stuff. And I hear you on the Google SketchUp, and I think that's kind of where I'm going to go. It just was, I was feeling like I'm just giving them busy work, you know, because we were so deep into AutoCAD, and now to go to Google SketchUp and, you know, kind of find some objects and some stuff for them to do in Google SketchUp. It seems like, you know, almost like I'm going backwards a bit, and I'm just going to be assigning this stuff so I can say that I have stuff in the grade book coming the end of this this semester. We are currently at Plum City. We're entering in grades. We're rolling forward as normal as far as grades go. They're going in the grade book and stuff. For the rest of my classes, I actually find that to be helpful because I'll be sending out emails. I have a Google Classroom that I use with the students, and of course much more now than ever before. But I will assign stuff through Google Classroom, and then the students that I don't get assignments in and stuff from, when I put the zero in the grade book, you know, parents have access to the grade book as well as the students. And I'm finding that a lot of students, you know, even I accept the work after the due date during this time just because it's, you know, something new for all of us. But then once it's in the grade book as a zero, then I start seeing assignments, you know, they're coming in late, but they're coming in.
Yeah, I'd have to say with, you know, the students with it, they have to go back and learn the SketchUp. It looks pretty close to Revit or AutoCAD, and so there is a little bit of learning curve. It doesn't seem to be too bad. Especially it's helpful with the video tutorials out on YouTube. And for me, it allows the students, they can go 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and jump on there when they can to look at the stuff and then shoot a picture of it or whatever to upload it. And so our CT department, we went with all of us having the assignments due at midnight on the upcoming Sunday. So the students seem to be remembering that. Otherwise, the complaint was because they don't know every class has a different due date for stuff in time. They seem to need to be get reorganized on how to do the online instruction. But having one date, and of course, everybody across the building couldn't have Sunday at midnight. That wouldn't work out too well. But for us, it seems to be working pretty good. But what I do is some students tend to procrastinate, and I'm no different. And so about Saturday evening, I start just plugging in missing in the grade book, and a lot of the students get a notification that, hey, this assignment's missing. And so I just do that as a reminder to them to get it done.
Yeah, it's these meetings are great that we're sharing this information, because I think one thing we all need to keep in mind is as we're going through this process that, you know, there's a fairly good chance that we're going to be going through this process again in the fall, by the way things are sounding, you know, that they're talking about this second wave. So for me, you know, I didn't use Google Classroom in most of my classes just because I have a limited number of laptops. I only have 7, and that's enough to get me through with like my AutoCAD classes and stuff. But as I'm setting up these assignments and kind of the new curriculum, if you will, for my classes, you know, I'm keeping in mind, I'm being mindful that, hey, there's a chance that we'll be doing something similar to this, you know, maybe not as long, but you know, there might be 2-4 weeks where they shut schools down again to deal with the pandemic.
Yeah, well, at least this year we have all our lessons developed. But somebody also I saw in the comments that came up with Onshape, and I'm using that as well. But I use that with a intro engineering design class, and it's working out very well. Again, we were using, since we're a Project Lead the Way school, we were using Autodesk Inventor, and with the students, we have a one-on-one Chromebook program, and it won't work on Chrome. And besides that, again, having issues with the software licensing for using it at home as well. So yeah, I'm using both SketchUp for the architectural drafting and then Onshape for my engineering design class.
I too have Chromebooks. How are you getting Google SketchUp to work on those Chromebooks?
Well, I put out with SketchUp, the students have been doing it, so apparently it's not a problem. It's been working with them. SketchUp, my understanding, it's cloud-based, so they don't have to download anything on the computer. They can save stuff on it, but they also can save it in the cloud. But you know, I give them some options. Most of them, I get a few of them sending me a link so I can get in and look at it. A lot of them are doing a screenshot or taking a picture with their phone and then uploading that into the assignment folder. And so that, you know, I said, if it comes down to it and things don't work, sketch it out on paper and shoot a picture of it and send it up that way.
Yeah, there's Google SketchUp has 2 formats. You can still download the old format, but you would need a PC, Windows-based machine to run that. Otherwise, if they log in with their school account into Google Chrome, they should be able to use the online format of SketchUp. And like Rob was saying, they can save. I'm sure they can save that to even like their Google Drives if your school's using that. And if you're using Google Classroom, they should be able to submit their work that they're doing in SketchUp directly to the assignments, where you can open it up and then manipulate it and look at it through SketchUp on your computer.
Yeah, I have Classroom too as well. So I was kind of in the middle of what you were saying with you know, Autodesk and drawing in AutoCAD, and also trying to switch over to SketchUp was my thought, because I've used it in the past, and it'd be like relearning the new tools and stuff. So right now I'm having them hand draw a garage sketch and going through that. So it's you know, I'm in the same boat as you as well. So I'm just curious with how SketchUp worked with Chromebook. So I'll research that and go back into that probably. Thank you.
Yeah, I guess, you know, and what I'm doing now, because pretty much we were doing the sketching and getting ready to ramp up to go to online when we got booted out of the school. And so I'm looking back at all the skills, what they need to do, and then find tutorials on that with SketchUp. And then I've had to back up and go through and teach them how to do it all online, component by component. And I'm getting ready to ramp up where probably next week they're going to start working on their final independent project. And so it's going to be pretty much the same way it would have been done in the classroom. It just won't be in there. We'll see how it goes. It's kind of unexplored territory, but so far, and I figure if there's a lot of struggling, they'll just have a regular online scheduled meeting, and then I'll go through it step by step with them online and walk them through it that way. Just go into the presentation mode and have them follow along.
All right. Does anyone else have a different discussion to bring up besides working with CAD?
I have a question for everyone. Is everybody locked out of their buildings? Can they get into them at all?
I'm locked out of mine.
Same here. Plum City is currently locked out.
Yeah, at Wanakee, we're locked out. It has to be really important. Almost nobody can get into the building except for the people maintaining it.
We have limited access. We have to be let in by an admin and have very specific, what are you doing, where are you going kind of stuff.
Yeah, we have to have principal's permission to get in the building.
Thank you.
We're allowed in usually about 1 day a week, and we have to notify the administration and the maintenance people where we went while we were there.
I see some people have been sharing in the chat that most people, it sounds like they're locked out. This is Marcy Kuhn from CISA 7. I did add at 136 in the chat. There's an add-on to a Google Calendar that you can have kids set up meeting times with you, where you can open it up and put in times that you're available. So I think Rob was talking about perhaps having to have individual meetings with students, where that way you're not kind of emailing back and forth, that they can set up specific meeting times with you. I just shared that out.
One thing I'm struggling with a little bit is Woods classes. The CAD isn't too bad. You just have the kids working on software at home on their computers or their Chromebooks, and then put together screencastify videos. But the Woods class, we did a lot of the bookwork up front, third quarter, and fourth quarter was going to be primarily shop activities, and now I'm kind of sitting, trying to struggle with what I'm going to try and have the kids do. Just wondering if anybody else has any other good ideas for that.
I'm in the same boat here in Three Lakes. Most of my kids, the fourth quarter is all lab time. You know, that's their final projects. That's things we do. I've recently found Career Safe. It's got OSHA training tapes or videos. It costs money. I was fortunate enough to find enough money locally through a donation. So I currently started that today. We came off break yesterday, and it's 12 to 15 hours of seat time, and it gives them something a life skill instead of just me giving them busy work, because of the situation where they already have all the background. This is supposed to be all lab time. We're supposed to be making sheds in my construction class, Woods class, metals classes. It's all the final projects. So I thought it was best to Career Safe, it's a pretty good program. I got my junior high kids working on cyber security, cyber safety, and my high school kids, I allowed them to pick the ones they wanted out of the 6 that are there. Really good programs.
Mike,
Yeah,
how much is that program?
They're $25 per class for the 10-hour ones, and they get a certificate, so it's a life skill. They are site. It's careersafe.com. You can buy a site license up to 2,000 seats. I know for the junior high cybersecurity, it's like $4.99 and you get 5,000 seats. But the cybersecurity was $5 a class. But I'm a small school, you know, I only have 22 kids in my high school classes. So it was affordable.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat here. I have a manufacturing class, cabinetry class, welding's 2 class, and we were at the point where we were in the lab starting to do the production end of stuff. So when this first happened, you know, we set up 2 weeks worth of packets for kids to take home. And then it kind of got stretched into talking about 3. And now, of course, we're talking about, you know, the end of April and maybe running this right through to the end of the school year. So I've just kind of started looking at those classes, but I did come across, and I'm sure a lot of you know about it. I did post it in the chat portion of this. It's called Wisconsin Online, and they have a number of different learning activities. With my manufacturing class and like my cabinetry class, there's a number of videos on different measuring tools like depth gauges and micrometers, dial calipers, where they have a slideshow presentation with videos explaining how you read those instruments. And then at the end, they have, you know, an 8 to 12 question quiz that kids go through, and you know, on how to read like a dial caliper. And then on the last slide, it will tell the student that you got 10 out of 12 questions correct. And I have them do a screenshot of that that last slide that has their score, and I use that then to put in the grade book. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. You know, I'm doing that right now, but here in a few weeks, you know, I'm going to be kind of running out of those activities. And then I think we're all in the same boat, as we just don't want to assign kids assignments so that we can put a check mark or a number in a grade book to show administration and districts that, well, you know, yeah, we jumped the hoops, you know.
What I've come up with so far is some simple projects that don't take much more than a handsaw and a tape measure and a drill. And then I have an option for kids to just do online stuff, you know, make a parts list and a procedure sheet for a project of their choosing. That's kind of what I've come up with so far, and still looking for something better, I guess.
Make sure you're following the chat, because some people are putting resources in there. I added a few simulations for carpentry and for the residential construction as well as woodworking. Don't know how great they are, but then I know Rob had just put out Miller Weld's open book online courses, and Lincoln U-Link has online materials as well. So make sure you have that chat opened in the upper right-hand corner. People are sharing out resources in there.
As far as giving kids a chance to build something, many of my kids I don't think they have a screwdriver at home. So I think I'm going to have them do some sheet metal design work, and then I'll have them fold out of a cereal box. So I'll have it small enough where it can be done out of a small piece of cardboard or paper, and then I'll have them layout and design and fold up that. I would think any kid would be able to do that with what they've got at home.
You can also build things out of spaghetti, pasta noodles, things like that. You can be creative and you can make a bridge building activity out of it. And that works pretty well too. Fettuccine, spaghetti are good building blocks and easy to work with. All you need that and glue.
I'd like to throw out there a question for the group, if because I mean right now we're well into our 5th week of this right now for my school, and I was just kind of curious if you're seeing some of the kids and maybe even some of the teachers that are starting to get a little bit stressed and burnt out on this digital learning.
Amen, brother. Amen.
Yeah, I know. I am for sure. Just because I think we're trying to find all these resources where like I say, it's just not, busy work. One thing I am starting to do is, like I mentioned, the slides on that Wisconsin online and stuff. And, it's really about a half hour to 40-minute activity. And I'm kind of easing up on like due dates, even though I know it's something once I assign it, they can do it in a day and get it in either the next day or even that day. I'm putting it out 3 days to give them a little bit of time to work on it stuff. Because on the flip side, it is I have no idea what the other teachers in my district are assigning students. And like I say, I come from a rural district, so a lot of households have maybe one computer, but they might have 3-4 kids. And I'm thinking, gosh, computer time just amongst the family members, I would think is somewhat of an issue for some families. So instead of trying to find, I have 7 different classes that I'm teaching, and instead of trying to find like a daily or 2-day type assignments, I'm just kind of stretching them out a little bit and giving myself a little bit more time to find stuff that works and works rather smoothly, and not, for myself, and then not putting so much stress on the students too.
I know in Three Lakes, we throttled way back. We had high expectations. We were told 45 minutes per class period. Junior high, 30 minutes per class period. We were going 5 days a week. We never used the snow days, so it's basically we're going 4 days a week for the next 3 weeks. We have in-service days, basically prep days. This week we had yesterday off because we just came off break. Next week, Friday or Wednesday, we have a prep day. On Wednesday, no student contact, and the following Friday, we have that prep day, no contact day. So, and we were told 30 minutes for high schools classes, 20 minutes for junior high classes. And that includes their homework, not just instruction with homework. They have only that amount of time is what we're supposed to be scheduling, because the parents were just pulling their hairs out. I think a lot of parents have a new appreciation for the teaching trade that they never had before, trying to do what we've been doing for a lot of years very successfully.
Well, I'd say I have a unique way, from what I can tell, at dealing with the stress and giving the students a little bit of a break. And then when I'm trying to teach an online course, it's kind of hard to get them to listen to what I'm saying. But, I sent out a survey last week, say, what was your favorite thing about the class this week? And they said, my costume. So this is just one example. I have a few. And so it does break things up a bit, obviously.
Yeah, it's good to see you haven't gone off the deep edge there, Rob.
Well, yeah, that's to be debated. My wife teaches at the UW, and so she's in the other office, and she comes out and looks at me, and she just She says she can't do this with her students.
How about the rest of you guys? How long do your principals want you to prepare a lesson for? For us at Kakana, we have 70-minute periods. He's asking us to do 30 minutes a day.
Kind of related to that is just the concept of how many of you are doing direct contact, setting up Google Meets with kids, or in my case, I'm doing a lot of assignments on Monday and Tuesday, and then making them due at the end of the week. And the kids can kind of figure out when they got time to get things done. So not really having direct contact with the kids.
I post my assignments first thing on Monday, and I expect them done by the end of the week. But I send them emails for like roll call, I call it, and I embed a secret message in it or something. And all they have to do is put in there a code word and send it back to me, and I give them 10 points in the grade book, so I know I'm keeping in contact with them. Because I don't know about you guys, but I've had a lot of problems with students reading emails. They open them up, but they don't read them. And then at the end, you say, okay, done it, or good for that, or if it's noon in Three Lakes, what time is it in Wisconsin? And they answer it, and then I give them the 10 points, and then I know they're online, at least they're looking at my emails, and I know I usually have 5 or 6 kids that don't open their emails.
No, I like that idea. I'm going to start incorporating that with what I'm doing.
It works well. I know I've had some parents kind of piss and moan about it, saying, hey, that's not fair. And I said, well, it's a life skill. How many times do you open your email every day and check your email? Yep. So I believe it's teaching a life skill for industry or coming together. Is emails the thing, and they need to open emails and read emails.
Yep. I working through Google Classroom, the reason I think that's a great idea is because, in my instructions for Google Classroom, it'll say, take a screenshot or whatever the deal is and submit it into this assignment in Google Classroom. And I'll get students that will take a screenshot and then email it to me and things like that. So getting them to read, not only the emails, but the instructions of the assignments that we're handing out is really imperative for, the way we're running things now. So just that little bit of a, like you were saying, send an email where it's like a statement or a number, or if it's, 2 o'clock in Three Lakes, what time is it in Wisconsin, and make them actually give a reply. It kind of starts instilling, the importance of reading assignments and emails, and it's a quick one hitter for them. I mean, they read it. It takes them less than a couple minutes to be able to complete that, and they get points for it. So, yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Related to that, I just do everything through Google Classroom. I make everything an assignment, and if it's just a matter of doing it or not doing it, I give it a 1-point value, and then I just look at my grades on Google Classroom, and I told my kids that they need to respond and submit everything through Google Classroom with the assignments, so that it gives me a little bit of sanity, because I just have to look at one screen and I can see what kids have responded or not responded, and it keeps everything in one place for all my different classes. I got 8 different classes going on right now, and so I just have to go to each class and look at the grades and see what's been submitted or not submitted.
Yeah, I've been replying to my students who aren't, I'm using Google Classroom exclusively right now as well. And for the students that are doing the assignments and then emailing it to me, I just reply to them and say, you have to hand this into the Google Classroom, or else you don't get credit for it. And if they don't follow through with that, I put a 0 in the grade book when it comes time for the assignment to be due. And then usually that's when I find that they either will send me an email and ask why they're getting this 0, or they figured it out on their own and then they submit it into the classroom. But you're right. I mean, I have 7 different classes this semester, and it is just nuts to be having to bounce all over the place to find, you know, an assignment. It's, you know, if you have it set up in Google Classroom, it's real easy just to look at the assignment, give them a grade, and then I just transfer that grade over into Skyward.
One way that I checked my students and whether or not they were on my Google Classroom is I just posted like a fun question that the students had to respond to, and that made me aware of what students weren't checking Google Classroom at all. So that was one thing that I tried doing.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. One of my first assignments was just simply take it. You know, I found some videos on YouTube showing students how they can take a screenshot, not only on like laptops, Macs, Google Chrome, but how they can take screenshots on their mobile devices, on their phones, because they can do some of these activities right off of their smartphones. And so I just set up links where they could go look at these YouTube instructional videos. And the assignment was just, hey, you know, take a screenshot of your screen and submit it into this assignment.
Yeah, as far as students checking WTEA, we're using Schoology, and there's analytics in there where I can go in and look and see. It tells me the day and the time that the students last accessed the materials folder for the course. And so then I know at least if they're going in and looking. And it seems like most are. They don't always submit the stuff, but at least they look at it.
Well, I just want to let you guys know that on the sheet where you signed in, I was taking notes throughout this discussion, so you can take a look at that.
Perfect.
Do we want to meet again as a tech ed group through this setting next week, Tuesday at this time, 1 o'clock? Do we want to do that? If you guys want to just say yes or no, or put that in the chatting box, let me know. Otherwise, the plan is to meet next week, Tuesday at 1 o'clock, unless I see a lot of people that do not want that.
I think it's worthwhile, and thank you for doing it.
I agree.
Well, CISA 7 is the one that originally does it, but I wanted to get as many tech ed teachers in here as possible, so that's why I keep sending it out to the listserv. So thank you for everyone that's joined us. Your information is very valuable.
I'd just say, why not do it? If you don't want to make it, then don't make it. But we had pretty good turnout here today, and I would think we might get the word out and get some more people involved too.
Yep. In fact, Colleen said that we're one of the bigger groups. I mean, the first time we met, it was just me. Second time we had like 30, and now we're up to 40 today. So it's definitely increasing in numbers. So the plan is to continue doing it once a week. So
Angie, can you make sure that the recording gets to Phil? And this will show up on the WTA's YouTube channel. If you go to the website, you can see that. And we have a recording then hopefully from this meeting, one from people in the Northwest section of the state, and another one from CISA 12, so which is kind of over in that area as well. So if you want to remember back or see any of the links that people shared, go to that YouTube page. You can watch the entire recordings of these types of meetings.
sounds good, Dave.
Everyone stay safe. Stay safe.
Thank you again for everyone joining. And again, take a look at the notes and if you need to add anything to there, go ahead. But thank you, and we'll plan on next week again.